wonderful Thanksgiving and just a good holiday together. Hopefully you got to eat some good food and be with family, friends, loved one, and do that. We got to do that, and now it's Christmas time, right? It's the time now where we get excited and Christmas is here. Christmas is coming. This is the season. And as Jordan said earlier, today I have titled this message, Proceed with Caution. Because the truth is that there's a pull in this season. There's a draw and a pull of this season that we want to squeeze everything out that we can out of this season. We want all the experiences, all the joy, all the gifts, and all the excitement. And you are not alone in this. I am somebody who, I get geeked about this season. It's like July, and I'm like, we're halfway there. I get excited for Christmas season. I'm just one of those people. I'm all in. I'm like, babe, just as soon as November hits, you can throw the trees up. You just put as many up as you want. Put stuff everywhere. Let's decorate. Let's do it. I love this season, and I love the joy that this season brings. I love just the excitement and the anticipation that this season brings. I'm still like a little kid at heart when this season rolls around. There's just so much anticipation and joy and excitement for me as we head in to the Christmas season. There are a ton of things to love about this season, and I actually threw a couple of them up here on the screen, and maybe you're like me and you love the lights. Like for me and my kids, we like to load up in the car and we drive around and we go and we see Christmas lights. We just look and, somebody's got a cool light show and it's to the radio or something. We try to find all the lights that we can possibly find, and the kids are like, oh, Daddy, can we have this next one? Can we go to Starbucks and let's get some hot cocoa as we go and look at lights? And I'm like, well, there's 3 of you. That'd be like $625 at Starbucks. So I'll just make some when we get home. But maybe you love the hot cocoa about this season. There's just something about that warm drink that makes you feel warm and fuzzy inside. Maybe you're somebody who loves the presents. Like it's the gifts that just make this season so exciting for you and that create this feeling of anticipation. Some of you are those who love to give gifts. Your joy and your excitement comes from when that moment when they finally get to open up the gift because you've just picked out the perfect gift for the season, and you know that it's just going to bring about eternal joy for the person opening it, and you are the one who selected the perfect gift. And then there's the other ones of us who are maybe more like me, and you're like, I love to get a good gift every once in a while, and that's what we get excited about in this season. Maybe for some of us it's travel. Maybe you just love to travel. You have a Christmas vacation that you do, or it's just the idea that I get to go and be around and see my loved ones at this time of the year, and we get to go and have some excitement with that. Maybe, if you're like my wife and I, it's the food. There's just something about this season. Every year we turn on the Great British Baking Show and we're just, let's cook, let's make cookies, let's make breads, let's make pies and things like that, and let's just cook and let's enjoy the food. And then maybe you're one of these special people. This is not at my house, but you're going to come out Christmas morning and you're going to see, something like this with there's a big bow on it, and it's just sitting in the driveway and it finally happened, right? Maybe it's the music. Maybe it's the music this time of year and you're just like, I cannot wait for Mariah Carey's voice to just blast through my speakers. And it's just all will be right with the world when I hear the Christmas tunes turn on. And for some of us, this is my personal favorite and my family's favorite. The thing that brings about the most nostalgic Christmas for me is the movies. It's Charlie Brown Christmas for me and in my household. I don't know why. I just grew up, and my family, we had this rickety little Christmas tree that we'd set up every year, and we called it our Charlie Brown Christmas tree because there's nothing to it. But it's all of these things, right? They bring about this season and this excitement, this feeling of joy in this season. If we're honest, our calendars are already stacking up, right? We've got the Christmas parties that are jumping on the calendar. We might even have a night marked where it's this is the night that we're going to go, and we're going to go out and do the whole lights and hot cocoa thing and go look around. We've got our white elephant parties scheduled. Then Christmas Eve service comes. And we're all going to sit in here or wherever we are with our respective families. We get to enjoy a Christmas Eve service together, and there's this candlelight service, and we're going to go from that, and it's going to be just perfect and feel just right. And then we're going to head into Christmas Day. And maybe your family has like a nice breakfast that morning, or maybe you're more of like the Christmas dinner folks, and everybody's gonna get to open up the gifts that are under the tree, and there's just this joy and this excitement, and it's finally here. It's the culmination of this whole season, all the things that we've been waiting for, and we get to experience all the joy. But if we're honest, like there's always a little bit of something about this season that kind of bites us, right? Like there's something about this season and a reality that like December 26th comes, doesn't it? It's the next morning, and for some reason, there's just a little bit in our soul that kind of feels just a little disheartened. It's a little sad, a little sorrow that it's over, and we're just like, And the truth is, there's this pull in this season, and it's all of the things and all of this stuff, and all of it is good. I'm not saying it's bad, but there's a reality that if we're not careful, there's a draw and a pull in this season toward all of the things and the stuff. And we will put a weight and a pressure on those things to deliver a feeling of fulfillment and satisfaction to us that they cannot deliver on, right? Like I know I'm not the only one who experiences this, but it's just this idea that like, oh, it's gonna be perfect. You see, I just painted a picture of that dream scenario and setup for many of us. But if we're honest, like a lot of us, the reality is that it's just a dream, right? Like the reality for some of us is that like this season, this Christmas, like that person isn't going to be there. Like we're not going to be able to put all of those gifts under the tree. Or we're not going to be able to get all of the experiences and do all of the things because it's just not going to work out, or our circumstances have changed and something's different. And I don't say any of this to simply be a Debbie Downer. In fact, quite the opposite. My heart and my desire today is that we would proceed into this season with caution and set our hearts and our minds appropriately. I love this season because I think there is so much joy and goodness to be had when our hearts and our minds are tuned in appropriately to the gift and the joy and the offer of this season for each and every one of us. James 1:17 says, "Every good and perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of lights, who does not change like shifting shadows." My question is this, is like, here's the truth, is like I want you to have all of the fun this Christmas. I promise you I intend to. I'm going to do the things. I'm going to try and squeeze the joy out of this season and have the fun and do the things. And James would tell us, like, hey, all of these good gifts, all of these things that are full of goodness, they're from God himself. He's given them to us for our joy. And at the same time, if we just stop there on those things, those moments, those experiences, and let the thing terminate there, and we miss the God who does not change like shifting shadows, we will miss the point of this season. The book of Isaiah gives us this timeless Christmas passage, and it's about the promise of the true gift of this season being the person of Jesus Christ. And he says this in Isaiah chapter 9, starting in verse 6. "For to us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulders. And his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. And of the increase of his government and peace there will be no end in the throne of David and over his kingdom, to establish it and uphold it with justice and righteousness from this time forth and forevermore. The zeal of the Lord of hosts will do this." What's interesting about this passage is in Isaiah, like we receive this promise, and it's this prophecy of, hey, God is going to give each and every one of us, he's going to send this gift. And the gift is his son. The gift is a son given, a child that is born to us. And then what he does here is he lays out some names. And what those names are to do is to simply signify, they're supposed to be identifiers that are pointing to the identity of what this gift is going to be and meant to be for each and every one of us. And he calls him Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, and Prince of Peace. And my encouragement to all of us in this season is, as we move forward into all of the things, that we would lean into this passage, that we would lean into the purpose and the meaning behind all of the beautiful and good things that we get to experience and take in this season, and let those things roll up to the wonderful Counselor, to the everlasting Father, to our mighty God, to the Prince of Peace. You see, the thing is, I think that for many of us, if we're honest, I know for myself, like I could use a wonderful counselor in this season. Like, is anyone's soul weary or tired? And anybody in this season, it's like this season comes and there's so much joy, there's so much excitement about the season, but if we're honest, it kind of feels like it just adds another layer of something to our plate. And we get tired and we get weary and we get exhausted and we get worn down, and God says, hey, I've got a wonderful counselor. This is the gift I'm offering you, that I have brought you in this season. And he calls him Mighty God. That word mighty translates strength or hero, powerful, or actually warrior is one of the words that it can be translated as in the Hebrew. And it means the one who will fight for you. And we're reminded in this season that the gift of Jesus, the Son of God, is that maybe you've got some battles that you're facing. Maybe you're in a place and space where you're like, I don't have the strength. I don't feel like I can muster the strength. And he's saying, I got you. Because the gift that I've given in this season is my Son, and he is a mighty, strong warrior who will fight this battle with and for you. You can lean into that, and it's the only thing that'll deliver. Maybe it's this idea of an everlasting Father. Maybe what some of us would need in this season is to experience the goodness and the love of a father, because we've lost that. Or maybe we haven't had it, we haven't experienced that, and we don't know what to do with it, we can't grasp or understand it. And he's saying, I'm offering up the gift in this season that I would be the kind of father that you could lean on, that you could love and ask for grace and kindness and help, and that would step in and show you love and grace in whatever circumstance you may find yourself in this season. And then the last name that we read here is Prince of Peace, and I want to lean in on this one. Prince of Peace. I don't know about you, but as I shared about all the fun and all the excitement, all the joy that this season can bring, the truth is there's like this promise that it's going to deliver us some peace and some joy, and I think that it can bring about those things, right? But if we're honest, I think there's also a reality in this season that sometimes this season and all of the stuff can bring about anything but peace, right? Like, I think some of us, if we were actually sharing where we're at or how our hearts and our minds feel in this season, or as we get to the end of the season, we're just kind of looking back and we're like, man, it was just chaos. It was wild. And at the same time, like what God says and what he's offering us is like, hey, to us a child is given, a son is born. And he will be the Prince of Peace for you and for me, and that's the offer of Christ in this season. And I think what God's saying is like, hey, you can go and have all the things and do all the things and get joy and experience joy from all these things, and at the same time, don't miss the joy that there is in my Son and the peace that he can and will bring for you and for me. The truth is, as we go into like John writes in the book of 1 John, he writes about the pull of this world, and he's giving a caution to believers. And so that's what I wanted to do today, simply say, hey, proceed with caution. And John's going to talk to us about some of the temptations that I think they are the draw and pull of this season. And because my hope and my heart for you and for myself is that we would get joy and that we would get peace this season. As we go forward, that we would be like, we could look back and say like that was good. This season was so joyful and so good, and God gave us joy in it, and he gave us peace in it. Like we haven't experienced before, but I think the reality is that if we're going to get that, we actually have to look at some of these things that John talks about that are the pull and the draw of this world that will make us miss what he has for us. Not that they're bad at all, but that if we only get to those things, we will not get what God has for us. And so 1 John chapter 2, if you have your Bibles, you can turn there. And he says this, starting in verse 15. Do not love the world or the things of the world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. For all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life, is not from the Father, but from the world. The world is passing away along with its desires, but whoever does the will of God abides forever. You see, John's saying this, and he's telling this to Christians as a caution of like, hey, don't be lovers of the world. Which is interesting because we would read John 3:16 where he says, hey, for God so loved the world that he gave his only son, right? So it's like, all right, which one is it? And the reality is what John's getting at here and what he's talking about is like, do not be those who love the value system of this world. And that is the pull of this season. That is the pull of our culture and our lives and the world around us. Year-round and around the clock, and especially in this season, right? Like every marketing and advertisement thing that you see in this season could be summed up in those three things. It's one of those three things. It's the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, or it's the pride of life. And it's trying to say, hey, get this thing, and it's going to fill that space and fill that spot for you and for me. But it's offering up something that the truth is that it's simply a distraction that won't deliver, right? It's a promise that won't fulfill us. And so John said, hey, do not fall in love with the value system of the world here. I want to talk for a second about that. Is the first one is, he says, the lust of the flesh, and it's this temptation to feel. It's about passion. The lust of the flesh, it's a temptation to feel, and it's all about passion. And the truth is, like, every one of us want to feel, right? Especially in this season, like, we just want things to feel good again, like our desire and our hope, and we get so excited, and there's so much anticipation because we want things to feel like they did when we were kids, right? It was just warm and fuzzy, and it was exciting and cozy. And all was good, and there wasn't the responsibilities and the weight of all of the things. Like, I've shared my story with many of us in here, but like the way I grew up, like, this was the pull for me. Like, we grew up in a single wide trailer with my uncle, my mom, 4 kids, so there's 6 of us in this single wide trailer. And there was like there just wasn't a whole lot, like there were times when the power was out, there were times when, the heat wasn't on, things like that. And so there was something, even as a kid, like this feeling in this season was like everything just felt like it was going to be okay. And I remember all year long I would long for this season, this feeling of Christmas, for everything to just feel warm and cozy again, like it was just going to be all right. And John said, hey, if you let it last on that, and if that's where you're looking for fulfillment and satisfaction, you will be left feeling empty and hollow, because that feeling will not deliver. This is the lust of the flesh. It's the desire to feel like all is right and all will be good. The second thing he warns us about is the lust of the eyes. This is the temptation to have. It's about possession. Same scenario. Like, this is probably the one that I struggle with the most. Because like I grew up in the setting and the story that I just shared with you. And so it was just like, man, someday when I have all of that stuff, when I have a nice house and I have a nice car and I have all the things that I want and desire and hope for, then it'll all be all right. Then I'll get that feeling. Things will feel good again. And he says, hey, don't look there for that. This desire for possession won't deliver, and it will crumble under the weight that you're putting on it to fulfill and to satisfy your soul and my soul in this season. It's not bad to have the things, right? But if you're trying to make all of the goodness terminate on that, like, it won't satisfy and it won't hold up. This is easy for us. We live in this world and culture and society where it's about possession and material things. And I'm right there with the best of us, right? Like, I want my house to look like, at this time of year, like, I want my house to look like Shay McGee and Joanna Gaines did like a collab project on my house. And they've decorated everything and like something straight out of Pinterest. We want the nice truck and we want the nice gifts. And we want to be able to put everything under the tree that's on our kids' list. And yet John would warn us and he would say, don't put the weight of those things to fulfill and to satisfy on them. They will not hold up. And then he goes on to this last one, and he says the pride of life, and it's the temptation to be. It's the temptation toward position in this season. And truth is, all of us want to be somebody. We want to know people, and we want to be known by people. All of us want to be somebody. Like, all of us, we're hoping for the promotion. We're hoping for the bonus. We're hoping that we get to share that story of like, yeah, I'm in this spot now, or I know these people, or I can do this thing. And he's warning us against this. Some of us, it's a temptation. Like, we want to be that house in the neighborhood that everybody's like, oh, that's the house. We want to be that person at our kids' school that everybody's like, oh, they're the best. And while there's nothing wrong with any of these things, they are good and perfect gifts, they won't deliver if we just let the joy, the satisfaction, and we expect those things to fulfill in our souls. This is why when we read in Isaiah, he says, hey, the Father who gives perfect gifts, we're told in Isaiah the gift that he chose to give was his Son, who would be the wonderful counselor, the mighty God, the everlasting Father, and the Prince who would usher in peace for each and every one of us. God gives a good and perfect gift, and the gift that he chooses to give us and to point us toward in this season is the gift of his Son. And so my question is this, as we go into the seasons, like, what would it look like in this season? As we experience the things, as we do the Christmas parties, as we go and look at lights, as we sip the cocoa, and as we do the gifts under the tree and have these moments with our friends and our families and our loved ones, what would it look like for us to make the aim of these moments joy and peace in our lives? That the aim of these moments would not be to simply terminate on the things and on the moments, but for to point us toward God and to his goodness in those things. Like, what would that aim look like? John 3:16, God so loved the world that he gave his Son, that whoever believes would not perish but have eternal life. This is his gift. The gift of his Son, the gift of Christ. And so what would it look like for us to aim our lives at this, where God, he's talking about the people of the world. God's desire and his longing is for relationship with you and with me. His gift is delivery to us, an offer of peace, an offer of joy, an offer of something that can actually hold up under the weight of the things that we put on it, and that can actually be a place where our souls can rest in this season. This is what God offers. Romans 8:6 says this, the mind governed by the flesh is death, and the mind governed by the Spirit is life and peace. And so God sends his Son, that's the gift. And his Son tells us, hey, I'm going to the cross and I'm going to die and I'm going to send my Spirit. And this is the offer on the table for you and for me, that we can be people who would lean in and live from his Spirit, which the Bible would tell us is life and peace, not from the things that John's pointing at. The desires of the flesh, the desires of the eyes, the pride of life. Romans says those things are death. They won't be able to carry the weight that you're going to put on them, and they won't be able to deliver what you're asking of them. The true gift of this season is the coming, or the advent, if you would. That's what that word means. The coming one. The only one who can provide real peace for anyone. So what do we do with this? It's simple. My heart here and my hope is that we would ask some questions of ourselves, of our lives, of our families this season. Could we ask some questions as we go after joy and peace and all the things that are good in this season? Could we ask the questions like this, like what does it look like to actually pursue peace in this season? Well, what would that look like for you and your family? What would peace look like in your house if that was the aim, that was the pursuit this Christmas season? What would have to change? We'd ask questions like, is what I am doing going to beget peace in my life, in my relationship with my spouse, with my kids, with mom, dad, with brothers, sisters, with those that I love and that matter most? Is what I'm currently doing going to beget peace in those spaces? Here's the one that I have to keep coming back to and keep asking myself on a regular basis. But is the pace of my life one that I would even notice the Prince of Peace's voice if he was talking to me? Guys, the draw and the pull of this season is to just go, get. And I'm constantly having to ask myself, like, could I even hear God if he was speaking to me? Like, peace actually has a pace, and it's usually not the one that we're moving at. I would want to give you permission to actually ask this question this season. Like, what does my soul need this season? What does my soul need? I think most of us have to think about that for a while and wrestle with that, because it's probably not the new thing. It's probably not that extra experience. It's probably not all the things that are on our wants list this season. And again, not bad. I'm not saying you can't have them. But could we ask the question, like, what does my soul need this season? If the pull of the world is toward all of these things, here's what I think are some prescribed antidotes for you and for me. It would be to slow down this season, to take a moment to just go slower at everything. Kris, you don't know my life. I'm so busy and I got a business to run. I've got all the people that are all coming to my place. We got to do these things. I'm trying to check all the boxes. Like, what would it look like for you to just slow down this season? And if you can't go slow at all of those things, I'll tell you what I've told some good friends of mine, and what I've had to tell myself is, why don't you just start with eating slower? Like, just take time at the table to just simply eat slower and look at the faces around the table. And maybe give thanks to God for the goodness of the people he has put there, or the moment that you're having. Slow down. Go slower at something. I think one antidote would be to say no to something this season. The extra gift, the extra experience, whatever it might be. Just say no. Say, hey, that's really great. I'd love to do that, but I don't think this season is probably what's best for my soul, my family. For some of us, it's gonna be hard. But I think what God will offer you in exchange is peace. And then I would encourage you to simply ask the question as we do the things, as we look at the lights, we put up the tree, we decorate the house, to just have conversations with those that we are with of, hey, this thing is awesome, this is so good. What is this meant? What's God's design here? What is it meant to point us toward? Like sometimes, and I'm not perfect, I don't want this to be like some fairy tale story, but I will talk to my kids as we look at Christmas lights, like, hey, do you know what the lights mean? We just have the conversation. Well, this is actually the darkest time of the year. And so those lights, they shine extra bright. But those lights are actually meant to point us to Jesus. And so when we go look at them, it's supposed to be a reminder to us that he's the light of the world. He's the light of your life and the light of mine. When we have conversations like this, as we proceed with caution, we soak up the season, but we pursue peace and we pursue joy. Isaiah 9, for to us a child is born, a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulders, and his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. This is my prayer for you and for me this season, that we would experience the peace that God offers each and every one of us, and presence in that moment. Would you pray with me? God, we love you, we praise you, and we thank you for your son, Jesus. God, I thank you that you sent him to be a wonderful counselor. God, I pray for each of us in here that we would lean into whatever attribute we need this season in you and in your son. Maybe it's a father, maybe it's a counselor, maybe it's just a mighty warrior, maybe it's just a prince who ushers in peace. God, help us to experience your peace and your goodness this season as we move into all that you have for us. It's in your precious and holy name that I pray. Amen. Hey, would you